Hey everybody, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Succession Season 4, Episode 5, Kill List together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Give some love to that subscribe button as well. And if you like me and you like fantasy, hop on over to Amazon.com and you can get copies of my self-published fantasy books, We Were Wizards. The purple one is the first one, followed by the silver one. They're both there on Amazon right now all over the world in hardcover, paperback, and ebook for you or for the fantasy fan in your life. Old school, classic swords, magic. There may be some centaurs involved. All kinds of goodness. It's the kind of stuff I would read if somebody else wrote it anyway. Like I said at the top of the season, personal work schedule and Succession schedule are vastly clashing, so this is going to be a very short episode because there's a lot of work stuff to get done. But we're just going to touch briefly on what happened in Kill Switch, which basically just involves the whole Waystar crew hopping on across the pond to Norway to put some kind of punctuation mark at the end of this long gestating deal between them and Matsson. And I'd like to make it clear for the record that even though you can't really like any of these people. It's hard to like any of the characters on Succession because they're so awful. I particularly don't like Matsson. Ever since we first met him last year, I've just been like, ugh, this guy just skeeves me out. I can't stand him. So, boy, was it nice to get what we got at the end here. Maybe? Question mark? It's still pretty nebulous. With Logan gone and dead, Matsson is now the primary character that I would be totally happy with if he ended up falling down a flight of stairs. So we spent the whole episode with him being his usual condescending self and trying to finagle this deal out of the Waystar kids and them being hesitant and everybody just kind of sitting around wondering what's going to happen, how much can they get for this deal. The titular kill list involves a list of potential cullings that would be made in the company if the buy goes through. So, people are trying to avoid being on the kill list. But some people, like Carl, are like, hey, let the good times roll. I got my golden parachute. I am good. The quote of this week, I am going to give the best quote of the week to our friend Connor Roy, who is checking in from the States very briefly because he's doing the funeral plans with Willa, and he calls Roman and the others to let them know. And he says that Marcia has gotten her hands involved and she is making some decisions on her own. At which point Connor proceeds to tell them she's talking about putting him in a kilt like a fucking Bay City roller. That's one of the most Succession lines that has ever been uttered on Succession. And this episode felt particularly full of them. Whoever wrote this one, I think there were 2 writers on this episode, they really take the full-on nasty plunge when it comes to the way Succession characters speak, because half the time I felt like I needed subtitles in this one. Throughout the episode, they also keep making references to a movie that is being produced by Waystar Studios, and it involves a hibernating robot. And I just want to say, as a huge pop culture fan, as a huge Star Wars fan, as you can see, I am always so curious as to what kind of media the Waystar company makes. I love fictional media in other fiction. I would love it if somebody took that and made it real so we could see what this hibernating robot thing is. Fictional media makes me so happy. I would kill, no pun intended, to see the entire Stab franchise from Scream. But at the end of it all, Kendall decides, you know what? I don't care for this deal. I don't care for Matsson. Right there with you, Kendall. And I just want to pull the plug on this whole thing and go home. Let's trash the deal. Roman, not really 100% for it because Roman is sort of the biggest Logan Roy champion right now. Roman is the one trying to brandish Logan's legacy in a positive way. And of course, Siobhan, like last week, is already being edged out by Kendall. But Kendall talks Roman into it, and they decide to go forward with that. And they go up to this mountain where Matsson is waiting, because he waits on a mountain like a friggin' douche. And they confront him, and once again, he is just cruel and spiteful and unfriendly and unhelpful. And it's Roman who finally, the straw has broken the camel's back, and Roman just lets him have it. And that was one of the most satisfying things that has happened all season long. And he exchanges these choice words with Matsson, and they just take off back down the mountain. And that's that. And it looks like we're washed of our hands of this whole debacle, and we don't have to deal with Matsson anymore until we get back on that private plane. And it turns out that Siobhan has been running around behind the brother's back and making little secret, shadowy, clandestine micro deals on her own because she is having secret phone calls and exchanges with Mattson himself, who puts in a gigantic offer right in front of everybody that now is suddenly going to be much, much harder for the brothers to turn down. Now they have to go back to the board with this offer and either A, take it in spite of themselves, or B, try to weasel their way out of it and see how they can convince the board that it's a good idea not to sell. Oh boy! So I feel like we're seeing 2/3 of a pattern here. Maybe even perhaps 1/2 of a pattern. And here's what I mean by that. Last episode ended with all the siblings saying they were going to pull together and stay strong together, and then immediately Kendall sneaks off and does something behind everybody else's back. This episode ends with the siblings saying they're going to stay strong together, and then Siobhan sneaks off and immediately does something behind everybody else's back. So I am positing that next week we're going to see Roman do the exact same thing. We're going to end with Roman sneaking off and doing something behind everybody else's back, and maybe, possibly, the week after that, we might even see the same thing happen with Connor. If this is the case, if this is the pattern that they're showing us here, which I like, it really is kind of steamrolling us towards an end game that is very similar to what I would like to see and what I talked about wanting to see in last week's video, which you can go ahead and watch right now on my channel, where I theorize on the final shot of Succession and what we can expect from it. But that's Kill List in a very quick nutshell. I'm sorry we had to cut it so short today, but that's that. I liked the episode. I want to watch it again, possibly with some more non-corporate subtitles to really kind of get into the flow of what's going on. But the Roy siblings, their camaraderie is not going to last, which is a shame, because we would have thought with the death of their father, it would have brought them finally closer together, when in fact it's doing exactly the opposite. So what'll happen next week? Will they sell the company? Will they find a way out of the deal? And most important of all, will Logan Roy actually be wearing a kilt in his own funeral? Just like a Bay City roller, baby. I guess we'll find out next time. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, adios.